Welcome. So glad you tuned in to Leap of Faith as we explore Altos. Taken from the Latin altus, meaning high, we feature top priority news stories. We join our editorial and digital teams at Camzel with trending stories from our local weekly Catholic newspaper, as well as Caribbean, Vatican, and global stories. Take the leap with us, hot off the press.
Good evening, and welcome to Altos, a weekly Catholic news program done in collaboration with Trinity TV. Here's a look at what's ahead in today's program. Finance Minister Colm Imbert will present the national budget on October 2nd. What would citizens like him to address? The Trinidad and Tobago Catholic Diaspora in Miami celebrated their annual Independence Mass, and we have highlights. Father Ian Taylor and his team recently visited Guyana on mission. We'll find out more about that trip. And later on in the program, we'll have a pre-budget discussion with economist Dr. Marlene Atz. And now for our top story. Economist Dr. Valmiki Arjun is hoping that Finance Minister Colm Imbert will use the October 2nd budget presentation to address some of the major challenges affecting citizens and the quality of life in Trinidad and Tobago, including what he said are obstacles to private sector competitiveness, subpar production in the energy sector, foreign exchange shortages, high food prices, escalating crime rates, growing poverty, and equality. Speaking to Altos, Dr. Arjun said it is critical that attention also be paid to crime.
Prioritizing new crime initiatives alongside the traditional ones like border patrols and community policing is crucial. We need investments in education and skills development to continue to be ramped up, as a matter of fact, because a well-educated and skilled workforce is less likely to engage in criminal activities. New programs like data-driven analytics, all of these can help to identify criminal hotspots and better allocate law enforcement resources much more efficiently.
On the issue of current foreign exchange shortages, Dr. Arjun opined that this was a direct result of the constrained earnings because of several years of reduced oil and gas production. He believes it is crucial that the upcoming budget prioritize strategies that expedite bid rounds in the energy sector and boost upstream activities to increase oil and gas production. On the issue of food prices, Dr. Arjun noted that with food prices increasing by 31% in the last 5 years, continued focus must be placed on the agriculture sector.
Allocations to agriculture over the last 2 years, the sector continues to still underperform at about 17, it declined by about 17.8% in the first quarter of this year. So addressing issues like poor irrigation, land tenure challenges, predial larceny, all of this is essential, but it must be done together with a new program where we leverage smart technologies through a smart agriculture program in order to optimize our production per acreage and enhance our food security.
We discuss more on budget expectations with another economist and Catholic News columnist, Dr. Marlene Atz, later on in the program. As the nation prepares itself for the annual budget presentation on October 2nd, Altos took to the streets to gauge people's budget expectations.
I would love to see drop in gas prices, food prices, but I know that's not realistic. So realistically, none.
If you're really thinking about the future and what is taking over right now, it would be the technology. And I think that the technology in Trinidad, as of now, is very outdated. I think that with a more updated country, which would be a digitalized country, everything would just come together and run more smoothly.
I will expect for the major food items to be lowered and to put more funding towards security and to the education system.
I mean, my expectations for the budget is for it to be at least better than last year, because, I mean, the gas price is too high right now, and minimum wage not even going up.
My expectation is I increase the minimum wage, and for the groceries and things to decrease a little bit in the prices.
Honestly, I have no expectations whatsoever for the upcoming budget, sir.
Agriculture is something that is a big part of my life, right? And I went to school for 4 years to get my degree in agriculture. And I don't really have a particular expectation for the budget because I know how things are and the government and stuff like that. But I would like to see more money allocated into agriculture because I believe that over the COVID period, people are now starting to see the effects of agriculture and how much we need this. So I really feel as though, they should actually think about this and we should bring this to part because I think that during this budget time, I feel as though agriculture is something that we should put more effort into and more money.
Roman Catholic priest Father Trevor Nathasing has lamented the state of hate in society, which he says has led to unforgiving hearts and causes people to want to kill. Father Nathasing, who is the parish priest of St. Paul's RC Church in Couva, was speaking at the annual Independence Mass organized by the Nationals in Miami. At that Mass, Father Nathasing urged people to make the choice to forgive.
Delivering the homily last Sunday at the Christ the King Church in Miami, in celebration of Trinidad and Tobago's 61st anniversary of independence, Father Trevor Nathasing lamented, "We are currently in a state of divine judgment because we are failing to open our hearts to God and the power of forgiving one another."
Without forgiveness, human society will descend into massive chaos. And I think that is why we are where we are. All over the world, there is chaos, there is pain, there is suffering, universally. And I believe we are in a time of divine judgment. That doesn't sound nice for us to hear.
Declaring that the world has descended into a place of violence and anger, Father Nathasing urged Catholic faithful not to harden their hearts. He cited an example of his time in the parish of Lavendale Morva to drive home his point.
For those who know Trinidad, I spent 7 years in Lavendale Morva, and they would kill you for $500. No joking. For $500, they'll take a job to kill a man. In the 7 years, I buried 92 persons who were murdered.
He urged a joining of hearts and minds in prayer to end hatred and enmity.
Pray for Trinidad and Tobago and pray for the USA. Because there's a lot of unforgiveness among us in our nations. A lot of anger, a lot of hatred, a lot of enmity.
Father Nathasing said what the world needs now is mercy. But that could only happen if believers in Christ make a decision to live and practice mercy.
But forgiveness is a grace you have to pray for.
A healing mass was held at which prayers for an end to crime and violence was said for this country. Several weeks after returning from their World Youth Day pilgrimage, our youth pilgrims reconnected with each other recently at a meeting with Archbishop Gordon. Among them was Catholic News reporter at World Youth Day in Lisbon, Portugal, Renee Smith, who has more.
Embarking on a challenging pilgrimage can be such a transformative experience, particularly for young people seeking meaning and adventure in their lives. 30 of the 35 pilgrims shared their reflections, lessons learned, and personal growth at the Archbishop's house in Port of Spain. Towards the end of the sharing, Archbishop Gordon encouraged us to spend time in silence with God every day by using the examen prayer.
And if we do that every day, the examen is a gym for our conscience and our consciousness. You got that one? A gym for our conscience and our conscience is what tells us right from wrong. Our consciousness is what makes us aware of where God is in a particular time, moment, situation, that we are in. And if we build conscience and consciousness, we build a tremendous sense of God at work in everything in our life.
This weekend is another Jesus Explosion revival at Bishop Anstey Trinity College East. The annual Jesus Explosion, led by Spiritual Director Father Ian Taylor, has also been growing outside of Trinidad and Tobago, especially in neighboring Guyana, where Father Ian said people are yearning for God and the numbers are growing.
The dynamic of a Jesus Explosion is basically this. It introduces people to Jesus by way of the music, because music is what we call the gospel. It's a type of thing as well as the modern gospel music, which is captivating for these young people and the adults. Secondly, the preaching. We always have dynamic speakers who intend to bring people to conversion. And thirdly, confession, a major part of this whole program. And finally, the anointing coming from one, the Blessed Sacrament, adoration, and ministry. The first year, was 90. Then the second year was 120. And then the third year, which is this year, 160 persons. So interest was building. And people also were maturing. And this year, we went with Bibles, because these people didn't have Bibles. So we gave out 300 New Testaments inside of there, for which they were grateful. Jesus Explosion here in Trinidad has been the impetus for mission in Guyana. We've done Jesus Explosion also in St. Thomas. We've done Jesus Explosion also in Slovenia. And we will do Jesus Explosion wherever it is open. Next year, we hope to do it in Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago celebrates 47 years of being a republic on Sunday. How do you celebrate it? Altos videographer Barry Sedeno posed that question to citizens.
Republic Day, although is a big holiday in Trinidad and Tobago, I spend majority of my time with my family. It's not something where we go out and actually celebrate the holiday itself, but it's a time where everyone wants, everyone has the time to do their own work and stuff like that, but we take this time to spend with each other.
I stay home and I do a lot of cleaning.
I spend Republic Day with my family and friends. We have barbecue and we just enjoy the day at home.
Republic Day falls on a Sunday this year, so we'll be going to church. Normally, for Republic Day, we go to military parade just for the vibes.
Most Republic Days, either go to the beach or go to a family event. But this Republic Day, I am working.
Catch up on housework, cleaning, spending time with the family. That's it.
Normally, I just go on the beach with my family. I mean, not all the time, but this year, is on a Sunday, so I'm going to church.
Members of the Scout Association of Trinidad and Tobago joined the Institute of Marine Affairs on Saturday, September 16th in celebrating International Coastal Cleanup Day. Scouts age 11 to 15 and Cub Scouts ages 7 to 10, along with their leaders, parents and siblings, braved the hot sun to collect several tons of garbage. Under the theme of Ride the Waves, Not the Waste, the annual event saw Scouts gathered at the designated cleanup sites, armed with garbage bags and gloves, ready to tackle the coastal litter problem. There were two locations, the Audrey Jeffers Highway at the foreshore in Northwest and the picturesque East Coast in Mayaro. The aim was to make a significant contribution to a safer marine environment and raise awareness about the importance of responsible waste disposal. Well done to the Scouts and all who participated in this effort for a cleaner, healthier planet. It's time now to take a short break. When we return from this break, we speak with well-known economist and Catholic News columnist Dr. Marlene Atz on her expectations of the annual budget. Look at this trivia question with us and see if you could come up with the right answer. Join us after the break. Welcome back to Altos, our program, our weekly Catholic news program done in collaboration with Trinity TV. We have on the set with us for the first time and thankfully not the last time. We have Dr. Marlene Atz, economist, Catholic news columnist. Dr. Atz, welcome to the set of Altos.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's good you being with us. We are looking forward, we are looking ahead to the annual budget presentation, this annual exercise that the country goes through, and everybody wants to know what the man going to bring.
Absolutely, yes, and everybody's convulsing. I wonder if gas going up.
Precisely, and everybody run to the gas station and that sort of thing. Tell us, tell our viewers, what really goes into making a budget? How does the finance minister, how does he come up with those numbers?
All right, and I appreciate the opportunity to share that information. So there is the Ministry of Finance, and in the ministry there is a department called the Budgets Division. So they will meet with stakeholders over a certain period. They will ask different interest groups, the private sector, the chambers, etc. So you will see in the newspaper, the chamber wants X, Y, and Z. Businessmen call for X, Y, and Z. Everyone is kind of throwing in their wish list, and it's everything but the kitchen sink. And sometimes the kitchen sink is included. That goes in, and then that budgets division and indeed the entire technical machinery in the Ministry of Finance will then sort of disaggregate all of that and say, well, here's what we take away from, the champagne taste and the Moby money. We kind of now have to figure out where we are and what the country can afford. And of course, while the engine room will be the Ministry of Finance, you will, of course, have other sectors, other ministries and other departments. So your Ministry of Energy, which is very important to the landscape of Trinidad and Tobago, your social services, your ministries of planning, and all of their respective departments, they will also be putting in their wish list. So it will come from a number of stakeholders, a diverse group of stakeholders, but the rubber hits the road in the Ministry of Finance. They then determine what the revenue streams will look like for the country, and of course that will be dependent on what is happening in the energy sector, and that's a conversation by itself. And the country, I think we really need to appreciate that if we're not getting revenue from the energy sector, then it means that we're challenged, and the government either has to borrow on the domestic market or on the international market. So we have to temper the many requests with what is feasible. It's like having your monthly salary. You might really want to go on a round-the-world trip, but your salary is not going to permit that. Your salary says you might make a Tobago, you might make a staycation in Toco, but you really can't do the around the world. So the rubber hits the road at the Ministry of Finance.
So a lot of this is predicated then on the foreign exchange earnings of the country through the energy, through energy. Recently we've had a lot of talk about Forex and that sort of thing. Tell us a little bit more about how that is done. How do we get the budget based on the Forex, and how is Forex used in the country?
All right, so a couple of things inside of there. Trinidad and Tobago's primary economic activity is based on petrochemicals, oil, natural gas, as the case might be. And about 80% of our foreign exchange earnings come from that sector. What has happened, certainly between 2015 and the present time, is that there has been a decline both in production in Trinidad and Tobago and also in terms of activity in the energy sector. So we've not been earning as much. I mean, there have been a lot of things. Trinidad and Tobago is what we call a price taker. Even though it's significant for us in terms of the energy sector, we don't control global prices. So depending on what is happening with the big wigs, the OPEC countries, the Russias, the Saudi Arabias, etc., even Venezuela, our neighbor Venezuela, is significant in the global energy sector. Depending on what is happening among those players, prices either increase or they fall. And we benefit if the prices increase, and of course we suffer significantly if the prices fall. But governments will earn taxes, royalties, their engagements with different multinational companies, etc. So all of that goes into the kitty, and that forms the main revenue stream for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, that also constitutes a foreign exchange. So it stands to reason that if we're not earning from the energy sector, it means that our earnings of foreign exchange also will be challenged. Diminished. So which brings us to the conversation that we've been having within the last kind of 5 days or so about, Forex and who thinks what is going to happen, and the ministers and banks already signaling that they're going to limit.
The Republic Bank has
precisely
done some work.
Limit the amount of foreign exchange. So let's kind of take a step back and look at what happened during the COVID years. Even before COVID, the Ministry of Finance, the Minister of Finance would have announced a 7% tax on online purchases, because what was happening is that many persons were just point and click, use your credit card and you purchase some stuff and it comes in through the different courier companies in Trinidad and Tobago. During COVID-19, a lot of business persons, because remember we were in lockdown, there was not a lot of economic activity, a lot of business persons relied on importing raw materials for their businesses, etc., using a little credit card. So you would have seen an uptick in that, and I've spoken to some micro entrepreneurs, people who came out in the food business, etc., and they're saying that the cost of packaging for their goods, because you want a nice package, you want a decent packaging, something that is trendy and appealing to your public, they go online and they buy many of their things using their credit cards, etc., etc. So there has been some movement in terms of the use of the credit cards for online, and that, of course, is foreign exchange. So that when you're buying something in the US or in China, for example, that you want to import for your business, that is foreign exchange. You're not taking TT dollars. And the banks are required to remit to MasterCard and to Visa, etc., every morning, I think. What is owed to Caesar, so to speak, in terms of the foreign exchange. So there has been some movement while we're not earning foreign exchange, but it's not simply in terms of the credit cards, which is why I think it's important for us to have this conversation. Many of our supermarkets and the bulk shopping that we do in Trinidad and Tobago is in fact foreign exchange. So you go into those places and perhaps your favorite fruit or your favorite beverage is certainly not made in Trinidad and Tobago. So when we import...
You mean my strawberries? I can't, if I go to buy strawberries.
Strawberries, your peaches, your blueberry pie, all of these things, they're actually, the raw materials don't come from Trinidad and Tobago. We don't produce them here.
So I'm spending foreign exchange.
So you're actually spending foreign exchange, even though you go to the cash register and you spend 100, 200.
I pay TT dollars. I'm actually using foreign exchange.
Actually using foreign exchange. So come back to the original point. We're not earning, but our consumption of foreign exchange has continued unchecked, so to speak. So we're at a crossroads, and some very serious decisions will have to be made for us moving forward. And I think that is what is causing some palpitations in some quarters in terms of the minister's his serious tone when he said that he has to look at the consumption of foreign exchange.
He has to meet with them. One of the concerns that was expressed in the Vox Pop we had was the whole question of the minimum wage. That people are not earning, the minimum wage is still very low, and people are not earning as much, to really in terms of the quality of life. How would you speak to that?
I absolutely agree. There is no question in my mind that the minimum wage is indeed very low. It's now $17.50, and some back of the envelope calculations. If you work an 8-hour day, you take it on a 5-hour and a 5-day work week, you're taking about $2,800 per month. And if it goes up to $30, yes, and I'm glad that your brow is furrowed a bit, because for many of us it seems to be a little bit, on the low end. And even if you were to take the minimum wage up to the $30 that was being suggested, it simply takes your monthly salary to about $4,200, which we know is a bit of a challenge to keep body and soul together. But I think, as in everything, and as an academic, as an economist, and understanding how this small, seemingly isolated conversation, it can have ripple effects, because when that cost, and I suspect, as a member of the public suggested, that I think as we're on the the periphery of a new general election, I suspect some conversation will be had around the minimum wage. But we have to be mindful, and we have to contextualize it, because the business persons who will then have to pay those higher wages can very easily pass those costs on to the consumers, and then we can have something called cost push inflation. So we're going to be back full circle. So while your minimum wage might have increased,
your spending power still
precisely. So we have to manage those conversations.
One of the other things that has come up is, so we've talked about foreign exchange, we've talked about the minimum wage. People talk about agriculture as being one of the key things. We're still earning too much on, or the bulk of it on energy, from energy. What's the status? where should we be going in terms of agriculture?
We absolutely have to look at food security in Trinidad and Tobago, because again, our diet is one that is predicated on our earning of foreign exchange.
Precisely.
So we can import food because we were getting plenty foreign exchange. If that has changed, we have to make very serious structural changes in Trinidad and Tobago, and food security is absolutely one of those things we need to look at.
So we eat what we grow and plant what we eat.
Plant what we eat.
Yes.
I totally agree with that.
Dr. Atz, we want to invite you back certainly after the budget presentation is made on October 2nd, and we look forward to having you. Thanks very much for sharing with us for these short minutes.
Thank you very much.
That was our discussion with Dr. Mardine Atz, economist and Catholic News columnist, on just looking ahead at what's in store for the budget.
Altos, from the Latin altus, meaning high. Every Friday night we feature the top news items hot off the press. We are taking a leap of faith on Trinity TV. Jump in with us for this new and exciting experience.
In our weekly news feature, we look at the anniversaries being celebrated by members of the clergy. And we say a special happy anniversary to His Grace Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon, who celebrated the 12th anniversary of his episcopal ordination on September 21st. We pray God's best wishes and blessings upon His grace. We take a look now at what's ahead in our Catholic news, and to do that we have Associate Editor of Catholic News, Simone DeLochan.
In this week's Catholic News God at Work edition, check out Millennial Mind Daniel Francis as he discusses the little considered potential lifelong commitment of premarital sex. Read our interview with the popular blogger at Hungry Belly 868, Brent Banker, as he chats about balancing blogging, work, and family. I am Simone DeLochan, Associate Editor, Catholic News.
And here's a look at some of the events that you could take part in as we go through the coming week.
Join the Jesus Revival at Trinity College East, Trin City on Sunday, September 24th. On Monday, September 25th at 6 p.m., Eternal Light Community will host a prayer meeting at the St. Charles Borromeo RC Church, Tunapuna. Boma TT, in collaboration with the Archdiocese and Family Life Commission, will be hosting an online book study on theology of the body for beginners. Contact Boma TT 384-1659 for more detail.
And remember to get your copy of the Catholic News. Buy one for yourself and buy one for your neighbor as well. And if you wish to be featured on Altos, send your videos and photos for consideration on Altos by emailing altos@catholictt.org. That's altos@catholictt.org, all lowercase. And as we go, we end with a dance performed at the Mount Lambert RC Youth Ministries Independence Day fundraising fashion show. Until next week then, stay safe, stay hydrated, and God loves you.